All right, so very good morning to you. The first topic that we shall start learning more formally is the introduction to utilitarianism. It's a very tough word to say. It's one of my tongue twisters, utilitarianism. It's quite difficult to say. The idea of utilitarianism, I hope the slide is not too small, or if I go to the slide mode, presentation mode, maybe it would be better, I guess. Does it look better than before? Okay. The idea of utilitarianism has been, again, I would be explaining it with the same example of train and those track workers. And the train is now getting out of control, and we have to maneuver either this way or that way, depending upon how we think. The first, yeah, please carry on. The philosophy that we have, the first philosophy that we have is called consequentialist. Consequentialist, the word come from the root word is consequence, outcome, result, the final outcome. As a consequence, this happened or that happened. You know the meaning of word consequence. And the core idea behind this philosophy is that the end justifies the mean. If the end is good, like in the movies, we see that the movie start, there are some climaxes, there's some anti-climaxes, and then there is a happy ending of the movie. And we say, hey, whatever happened, it's fine. At least the end is good. Yeah. The end, the final destination is good. The consequence is given more priority over the journey. The destination is given more priority over the journey. If the final outcome of some action is good, it's good. Of course, to reach this final outcome, we might have made some sacrifices. We might have done something which we wouldn't have done in the normal life, but we have to do it because we wanted a very ideal outcome. Look at the example. The train is running, 5 workers, 1 worker. You make a choice. Okay, I don't want to run over 5 people. I want to, of course, I don't want to run over even 1 person, but since I have no choice, I run over 1. So I have a loss, but the benefit is more than the loss. And the benefit minus loss is positive. We save 5 minus 1, 4 net lives we save. So if the final outcome is good, then it's okay. Well, once again, this sounds very cynical. It's okay to maneuver the train on the other track where this 1 person is working, and we can, sorry to say, we can run him over. Or in the third example, when we discussed that when you are a doctor and you get 5 injured people, they don't have any sorry, imminent threat of death. Their injuries are curable. But then we also have 1 seriously injured person. And if you don't pay attention to him or her, the person would die. But if you pay too much attention to that person to save him or her, then those 5 people who for now are okay, not so seriously injured, but you know, they don't have any life threat. But if you don't pay them attention, they would develop some infection and they would die. And I think when we had this discussion, most of you, rather overwhelming majority of you were saying that, hey, save more people than less people if there is no escape route, if there's no choice. I know that none of you want to kill anybody. I know you are not so callous that you would let somebody die. But when you have a choice between a very bad situation and bad situation, you choose the bad situation rather than very bad situation. Because your core argument is that as a consequence of our action, we are able to save more people than less people. So inherently, unconsciously, implicitly, you were pro consequentialist philosophy. And this philosophy, as I said on other time, that this philosophy was given by Jermy Bentham, a very famous English scholar in the 18th century. And he is the proponent, he is a main ideologue of this type of philosophy that we, and actually, you might have heard about the cost benefit analysis that whenever we want to take some decision, we make a summary, we make a tick, we make a flow chart of the cost and the benefits. And as long as the benefits of some action exceed the cost, you go for it. So technically, you are using consequentialist philosophy. Okay, don't be thankless. You must be thankful to Jermy Bentham. Whenever you make when you are in this kind of situation and you make a decision based on this checklist. Okay, so positives sum, the negatives sum. If sum of positives is exceeding over sum of negatives, go for it. And that's why I wrote this phrase, the end justifies mean. What type of applications we have of consequentialist philosophy in our real life? Can you see this slide? I hope you can see in your computers as well. Yeah. What does it show? When you see this slide, do you get some ideas? Do you get some thoughts? This is a summary. This is some extract. I mentioned the source of, it's taken from Bloomberg, and it is about the highest paid CEOs and the executives in 2020. And you can see that there's one gentleman, he has received about $6.5 billion last year. Are you envious of him? Or do you know this guy? Who is he? Hmm? Yeah, $6.5 billion.
Budget of some countries.
It could be, you're right, very well said. The gentleman said that it could be even bigger than some of the budgets in the world. I would say that it could be even bigger than some of the GDP of some small islands. You know, so there's some small countries. Huh? Yeah, I mean, 6.5 billion a year. Remember, it's not forever, it's 1 year. Yes, gentlemen, you want to say something? Yeah.
Yeah. Just like
you mean this consequentialist? It's not visible?
It's visible, yes. And the second slide is not visible. Yes, please.
Yeah. Is it now? You can't see in your computer? Can you guys see it? In your computer?
The list of the billionaires that you showed, the next slide, can be seen. You are talking about $6.5 billion worth that CEO. We can see that slide.
It's here, no?
So
you can't see it.
We can see it on online, people.
Okay, but can I double check? What's the problem here? Can you see the slide in your computer? Number 2?
No, it's number 2. Same.
Same what? But can you see it here?
We are seeing the consequence,
but not in your computer. That's strange. I'll check about it. But Okay, let's focus on it. I can try to, well, the idea of showing you, I would see what's wrong with this. But anyway, the idea of showing this slide is, or I can do this way. If you can't see it, then I can zoom in a bit.
Yes, now we can see.
I can zoom it a bit
Fine.
and then,
No need to zoom. It's working now. We can see.
okay, good, good. So you can see that there are people who got, for example, this second company is about $568 million a year. But look at, just compare it with $6.6 billion a year. Isn't atrocious? Why do you need so much money? Please tell me.
To run an empire, I guess.
Sorry?
To run an empire.
But what would you do with that empire? I mean, I really wonder that what would you do if you have a big palace? Would you eat the walls? Would you jump from third floor? Hey, it's my floor, my building. So if I jump from third floor, I will not die because it's my building. Why would it kill me? I mean, the very thought is insane. But anyway, people differ. They have their own way of thinking. But the point here is not showing you, I don't want to show you and feel you good or bad about Elon Musk. But the point here I'm trying to show you is that we have a taxation system. And I wrote in quotes, if super rich people are taxed and that money is spent for the welfare of poor, then it sounds like Robin Hood. The whole taxation system that we have in the world is based on this philosophy that there are rich people and there are relatively poorer people. What you should do, take some money from the rich and do something that money is spent for the welfare of the poor people, those who don't have so much of resources, so that the fruits of business and economic success are shared. Do I sound here consequentialist? I'm sure even if you're super rich, given the choice, if you don't bring morality in this discussion, well, if they were so moral, then why did they take so much of money in the first place? But anyways, without bringing too much of morality in the discussion, even though these people are very rich, and I'm not restricting my discussion to only these super rich people. I'm even including the middle income people. I'm also including the worker who work in a factory and his or her salary is not more than 3,000 or even less than euros a month or something. And he or she has a 3 or 4 family members to feed, but they still pay tax. But I just showed you the extreme example. I'm very sure not everybody in Tesla is getting very high salary. You know, most people are. So not everybody is getting as much as the CEO is getting. But the point of discussion here is that the means can be pinching in the sense that when you have to pay your tax, it's not good feeling. Unless you are very benevolent and very much, you know, kind of, you're a person who you think that you are meant for the larger good in the society. But if you think from very micro level, tax is, in fact, the way tax is defined in the economics textbook, tax is something you pay involuntarily, which means given the choice, maybe many people would choose not to pay tax. It means that when it comes to the means, you pay tax, I pay tax, other people pay tax, it could be pinching, it could be hurting to some people. But what is the consequence? The consequence is that the state gets massive amount of money collected from the taxes. And with those taxes, the state is able to provide you all the public utilities which you think you should get. You get free education, you get free medical aid, even transportation is highly subsidized, the food is subsidized, and you get so many benefits. And if you are unemployed, even the money you get from the state, somebody has paid to the state for you being unemployed. So what is the consequence? The consequence is that more people are happier. If there is a few people paying taxes, an overwhelming majority of people in the country are happy. And this situation becomes even more, becomes more important. In the developed countries, you would see that the tax net is very big, which means that it's very difficult. It's very difficult to avoid paying taxes because the system is so legalized, the system is so structured, so organized that you can't escape paying taxes if you are supposed to pay. Well, of course, if you're a student, then it's a different case. But as long as you are liable to pay tax, you can't run away from it. But there are many developing countries in the world where people can find some escape route to avoid paying tax, even though they should pay. I can get your data. For example, in India, less than 2% of the population pays income tax. Such a massive country, about 1.4 billion people living, requiring hospitals, roads, public school, hospital, and whatnot. And guess what? Such a tiny percentage of population is paying direct taxes. And India or the other countries like India, in mostly in Asia and Africa or in Latin America, don't they have rich people? Well, if you make a list of richest people in the world, among top 10 or maybe among top 30, 40, there'll be at least 3 or 4 Indians.
Can I interrupt, please?
Oh, please go ahead.
I've read a book on, I guess most people read that, Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. On that book, he talked about some legal ways to avoid taxes, like building a business, and by that way you avoid the personal income tax. Is that legal? Can you tell us something about that?
Yeah, there are 2 ways. It's a very important point you raised. There are 2 ways. The one is tax avoidance, and the other is called tax evasion. Look at the word avoid and evade. I would have told these 2 words a bit later, but since you asked me, so I feel morally compelled to discuss now. If you are a very rich person and you are a CEO of a multi-million or a multi-billion company, and you have a lot of money at the end of the year, and now the taxman comes, hey, come here. You know what? You can't escape from me. And you say, wait a sec, let me talk to my tax consultant. And the tax consultant says, hey, you know what? You don't have to pay so much of tax. If you go by the straight route, this tax authorities would eat away 50% of your profits. You can start some investments. You can show some expenses. You know what? Right or wrong? I don't want to go in that discussion, okay? But you can do something to show more expenses so that your profit, even though you have still same amount of cash in your wallet, but in the records, the profit figure goes down. And when the profit figure goes down, what happens? You pay less tax. And you do it legally. Because naturally, the companies like KPMG or PricewaterhouseCoopers or Merrill and Lynch, they will not advise you. Come on, they are multi-billion companies, almost present in every country in the world. All the consultancy that they would give you would be legal. Come on. It's not illegal. It's legal. This is called tax avoidance. You avoid paying tax. The other is the tax evasion, which is illegal. Evasion is you are finally charge that, hey, you need to pay for this month 10,000 euros as a tax. And what you do, you make some bribery. You corrupt the staff in the tax authorities. You pay them something. Hey, you know what? Don't just keep it simple. Nobody would check. When you start using the unfair means to stop paying taxes or pay less taxes, so you start adopting illegal ways, then it's called tax evasion. Tax avoidance is perfectly fine. Companies do it. Why not? Avoidance is okay because it's permissible. But evasion is sinister. It's a crime. And if you're caught, then of course there are some severe punishments. But of course, as I said before, that in the OECD countries, the countries where the system, the governance system is very transparent, very well ingrained, people are responsible, these things do not happen, or at least they happen less. Of course, they do happen. We will discuss then no country is immune to corruption, only the scale varies. I repeat my words, no country on this planet is immune to corruption. Unfair means. They only vary in degree, magnitude. Okay, this willingness to dodge the system exists in every country, in every society. Okay, but the idea, I hope, who asked me this question about this? Momit?
Sorry?
Yeah. You asked me, so did I give you convincing answer or not?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Remember the two words, tax evasion and tax avoid. Avoiding is okay, but evading is bad. So basically, our entire taxation system that tax the rich and give to the poor. It's like, do you know the character Robin Hood? Who was that? He would go and, rob the money from the super rich people in the villages, and then he would go and share the money with the poor people. But of course, the government doesn't do like this, but effectively they take money from the rich people and they spend for the welfare of the poor people. And that is the whole welfare system. Finland is a welfare state. And it's not a utopia. In reality, most of the Scandinavian, the Nordic countries are welfare states, effectively. And the one reason which supports them to be welfare states is that the taxation system is very deep-rooted, and it's also, kind of very progressive and taking money from rich people. And that system, the tax rate is very high. So people who can afford to pay more, they pay really more. And people complain, but at least people do it. Nobody's, evading the tax. It's so transparent and so clear. Isn't that the reason Facebook, Google, and Apple have? Oh, yes, that's true. That's another discussion, Simon, that many times, many occasions, the companies move their headquarters of their operations from, they do it. Of course they do it. There are good and bad things associated when you are moving your headquarters. It also gives you some kind of, you see what, Simon, I would see it differently. Sometime when you move your headquarters from a high tax country to a low tax country, yeah, you can't keep it secret. Can you keep it secret? No, it becomes so public. The good thing is that you are doing it because you want to save money, don't you? But the bad thing is that, is it a bad thing? I want to ask this question. Imagine there is a company in Finland and they find, you know what? Oh, we have to pay 55% of our profits in the form of taxes. Let's go to some country. Let's go to Papua New Guinea, or let's go to Panama. Let's go to Solomon Island. what would be the negative? What would be the negative reaction to this decision? You said it right. The gentleman said that when a company leaves a country because it's complaining of high taxes, obviously there would be a negative developments in that country. If a multinational company leaves Finland on the plea that Finland is a high taxed country, then many people who work in this factory, they would become unemployed. The burden on Kela would increase. There are many suppliers who provide inputs to this company. They are scattered all over Finland. Their companies would also go bust. Okay, so there would be a negative. We use a phrase called negative externalities. I can write it down somewhere. There's a phrase, and yesterday a student complained that whenever I write something, I should write in Zoom, not on the whiteboard. Wait a sec. How do we spell it actually? Share screen. Where is the whiteboard? You see somewhere whiteboard?
Yeah, you can put to the board, I can type there.
Okay, that's good. That's good. That'll be better, I think. Yeah. We use a phrase because it's a bit. We say positive externalities, and then we have the negative externalities. The positive externalities is that when some company comes to Finland, they start the business operations. Obviously, this American company will not bring even the factory workers from America. Yeah, they would hire people here. People get job. Yeah. Then they will buy automobiles here. They would use the local services. They would pay for it. So what happens? The local economy becomes richer. This is called positive externality. But the negative externality, this is also tongue twister. And the negative externality is that when, as the gentleman said, that when the company leaves the country, people would be unemployed, and there'll be a lot of negative backlash of that. But then the lady over there, she said that not just there's a loss in quantitative terms, there is a one qualitative loss also. The company loses its face. Corporate reputation is very, very important these days. Gone are the days when company was only and only concerned about its shareholders. The modern day companies are very much concerned about their image. They don't mind having losses. They don't mind paying taxes even. I mean, more taxes. But what they cannot afford in the modern days is that they don't want to lose their reputation. In fact, there is one course called Corporate Reputation Management, which I teach in a Belgian university. Every year I go there and teach. And it's all about how the companies manage reputation and what actions or what inactions can dent their reputation. I don't tell them what the company should do, but I definitely tell them what company should never do. And one of them is that if you're moving a country because of the high taxes, the news become like a wildfire, and people ask you, hey, why did you leave Finland? Oh, we were paying more taxes. Oh, come on, it means you don't want to pay taxes. It means you are not a responsible citizen. Remember one thing. Not only individuals are citizens. There is a corporate citizenship as well. In the modern day, even corporates are considered as the resident or the citizens of a country. So the institutional behavior is same is treated in the same on the same parameters as we judge the individual behavior. Like you can be honest, dishonest, happy, sad, angry, aggressive, defensive, same way the corporates can also show this type of behavior. So therefore, if you are moving, if you're leaving a country on the plea of paying more taxes than you lose, you're running the risk of denting your image. Okay, why did you want to leave the country? Because you want to save some money. But what happened? The stock price goes down. People don't want to have business links with you because you are considered not so moral, not so responsible company. And remember, Bloomberg, all those organizations, they publish their list of responsible companies every year. And if you don't figure in, if you come very in the lower end of your responsibility or reputation, then even the banks would charge more interest from you if they start thinking of lending you money. You get my point? So actually, sometimes these moves can be counterproductive. Even financially, they can be bad. Because the kind of cost you pay as a consequence to that is much more than what you are trying to save. You want to save $100 and you end up paying $10,000. I'll give you one example and then I take the point of this gentleman. Some more than 10 years ago, I have forgotten exactly which year, there's a company called British Petroleum, BP. And they had their operations in Gulf of Mexico. I hope you heard about this catastrophe. Some 10, 12 years ago, there was a big financial recession in the world, global recession. In 2007, there came a huge recession. The companies were busting, the stock prices were going down, the investors were running away. It was a very bad time, especially between 2006-07 to 11-12. Those 5-6 years were very bad for the entire world. This happened during that time, this incident, this rather accident, I would say. The company's chief security officer comes to the board meeting and tells the top leaders of the company, hey, can I request you something? We have a safe, BP make oil products which have health and safety issues, right? Environmental issues. I'm trying to dramatize the whole situation. I was not there in the board meeting, but let's say this way, that this guy says, please, can you spend some money on buying additional equipment for safety and environmental protection? Because our existing system is almost going to collapse. And then the board leader says, gentlemen, do you think we should have replaced this system 3 years ago? And he says, yes, it's already 3 years over the expiry date. And then the other guys give a smirk and says, hey, if nothing has happened between these 3 years, don't worry, nothing will happen in the near future. Because it will cost us, let's say, 1,000 million, let's say 1,000. After a few days, all the safety mechanism networks collapsed, bust. Oil spilled in the water. The flora and fauna in that region was devastated. There are images available in YouTube and other social media, and they are really heart-wrenching. You don't feel good about it. You can't eat food afterwards because it's so bad. BP was held responsible. And you know how much liability, how much punishment BP was told to pay by the international regulators. Almost 10,000 more, 10,000 times more than the amount of money which, if they had put at the right time, this catastrophe could have been avoided. You get my point? 10,000 more times liability they had to pay. And what was the basic rationale of not having this good system of safety? They wanted to save money, this much money, and they ended up paying so big amount of money. Sometimes your short-term attitude, narrow-mindedness, the corporate greed for some, some very minor gains, they can really backfire. So therefore, even financially, such moves of not paying taxes or avoiding to refurbish your health and safety system, even that can come and hit you severely. Gentlemen, you have a question.
Yeah, I'd like to.
Okay, that's very important point the gentleman has raised, and I want some of your opinions. And because you people online, they can't hear so well, we have a gentleman here, and he said that it's wrong to say that the companies are citizens because they don't represent, they don't actually vote, and they pay taxes without representation. And he's right when he says that there is no visible representation. Who was this British scholar who said that no taxation without representation? If you don't represent, then why you pay tax? So do you agree that the companies, because they don't pay, they don't vote, but they pay taxes, so they don't represent, nobody represents them? Do you agree with this, that the companies should not be reckoned as the national citizens, or they should also be considered as the citizens of the country where they live? After all, they're using space, they're using air. If they throw some effluents outside, it can spoil the water, it can be bad for ecology. But I want to hear from you. Do you agree or disagree with what gentleman has said? And people who are online, don't you worry. Whenever somebody speaks, I would try to share with you the summary of the idea. Yes, lady over there. Mm-hmm.
You also have to consider the fact that it's exploiting the national labor.
Mm-hmm.
Like these people are paying these who have been paying tax. So the government is also charging the citizens for working for this company. And we also have to look at factors such as value-added tax on the things that they sell. They also have to pay that tax and give it back to the government so that it can go and be reinvested in the economy for the benefit of the citizens.
Mm-hmm.
I have to disagree with that. It doesn't make sense. They have to be. You can't say we can rephrase the term citizens and just be like international company.
Yeah.
Have to pay tax.
Very, very good idea. The lady said that the gentleman's point is right to this extent, that we can't say that the individual citizenship is same as the institutional citizenship, but we can say that they are comparable. And the lady said that because a company in a country is using its natural resources, mineral water, not mineral water, but mineral, water, the other resources, the manpower, and their actions or inactions can affect the local society. They can even have some impact on the ecology, environment. So therefore, they are as citizen, hence they have the responsibility. Like a citizen, you have the right. The companies also have the right. They get a lot of subsidies from the state. at the same time, they also have the responsibilities. Okay, they don't vote as such, but they still have to adhere to some of the responsibilities which everybody is supposed to do. Any other comment, or if you want to have a counterpoint, because you raised the point, so if you want to come back, follow on point.
My thoughts just yet. Now we should really discuss about what is private property and what is the property of the nation or state. For example, if I would own a forest, wouldn't it be my right to cut it down without paying anything to the government? Because I own that forest, I own that land. It's not something that the government or the other citizens own. It's mine. I have the right to do
very important point.
Do what I want with something that is legally.
Very important point. Do you own land? You have an apartment. Well, apartment is a different thing because you don't know what to own because there is a land if you're living on the 7th floor. But if you have a big house or a big forest or a big farm, are you the owner of land? Do you own the land? Or is it something wrong, or is it some misunderstanding with this definition of ownership?
I don't know if you can hear me because I don't have a mic, but I think
yes,
that
I can.
Good. And I think that is kind of one of the humankind's huge mistakes to actually think that I own land. Because we do not own it. We only use it, but kind of who am I to come and say this land is mine, I own this now, and I can do whatever I want with it. Because we've done it and we're in a crisis. And
what's your name? Sorry, I still, Satu, just a sec, I'll come back to you. I'm still not familiar with the names, but what's your name? Huh? Petu is saying, can I ask you this way? You own a big forest and you have a lovely cottage and you have a lake nearby. Can you cut your forest? Can you burn the forest? But the Finnish law says that you cannot. Just imagine. I know you can cut some forest and you can do, I know that. But let's imagine that the law says that you cannot cut the forest. But the forest is, as you said, is your ownership. Can you cut it? And if you are held accountable in the court of law, you say that, hey, it's my land. Look at the documents. I own this property. I can do whatever I want. So there'll be conflict between it's like two countries, because on the one hand, you have your own kingdom, you have your own property. You think that it's my, whatever I do is fine, belongs to me. But the state says that, no, you can't do it. So how would you react to the situation?
Well, in my opinion, only regulations that there should exist about private property are the environment regulations. So for the record, if I would own the forest, I of course wouldn't cut it because I like the animals and I want to keep nature.
But what if you want to cut?
But theoretically, I strongly believe that if someone owns something that is their private property and they can do whatever they want with it, it's their right.
I have a bit problem, not that I dislike your opinion, but I want you guys to take part in discussion, and please feel free to talk. It's very important to talk in the class. I am underlining this word owner, that I own it. I want some more clarity. What do you mean by this word own? Is it an ownership or is it some kind of entitlement? Do you get my point?
Well, I think that
is it the absolute ownership or is it some kind of Satu, can you help me in understanding this word?
Yeah,
ownership?
yeah. I think it's kind of, It's entitlement because you just don't actually own anything, because everything can be taken away from you, so you don't own it. So it's entitlement.
Yes. Satu, I know some examples. I will not name them, but of course it's not about Finland. In many countries, if the state issues an edict, a final verdict, it can take away your land. In many countries, when the state want to make roads, and the road is now going to cross your forest, your farm, or even your house, the state can come. Of course, they pay you compensation. Whatever, you're happy with the compensation or not is a different thing, but they can actually break your property, demolish it because the state wants it. Now you can't say, hey, you know what? My house is in the middle of the highway. Move your highway direction. I will not let my, I won't anybody touch my house because I own it. Well, the state says, I know you own it, but you know what? In the larger interest, we have to demolish it. If you want, we can resettle you somewhere. We can pay you compensation, even though it's your private property. You own it, but okay, you own the house, but the state owns you in a way. So it's like a ownership pyramid. Who owns who?
And that actually happens in Finland too.
Okay.
That the state comes and tells like, hey, we want this piece of land, we're gonna build a bigger road, so please, we give you money and you move out.
Okay, so they can acquire land even if you own it.
Yeah.
Good, Satu. And the lady over there, can you say again? Because you wanted to say something.
I have a question to ask you. If you own land, then why do you pay tax on carbon dioxide if you burn a forest? Why do you get fined for burning a forest if you cut down a tree? You have to think about that, because in this case, the book on squirrels. Squirrels are part of the environment, right? Why do you pay tax when you destroy something? And why is it that the government will tell you that where you've allocated your house is not environmentally friendly?
Now you hit the nail with the hammer there, and
I'll come back to you guys. It's very interesting.
That brings me to my final point. I'm not trying to get political here, but the very existence of state is against our personal freedoms.
Well, yeah, okay, fine. Let's see, it's a company, right? You know this term corporate social responsibility, right?
Yes.
You've come with all political, right? It's direct. Corporate social responsibility, right? You have to think about environmental laws, right? And how to.
So we talk about the stakeholders. So if you own a big house, big farm, and you're doing it, and because of smoke or you inflict something else, and that is causing your neighbors to be suffering from it, then your absolute freedom is under question. But thanks for a very interesting discussion. That's what I want, that people should say and come forward and don't feel shy, don't feel afraid of taking position and having the fist fight, but not in the strict sense. Yeah.
There is one thing that I haven't heard that anyone, like for example, that thing that from whom they are buying, from state name Finland. So when you buy the property, are you stay in the inside of state, under the state, or you have new kingdoms set up? How it goes? Then it's answer to your question basically. You are still under, you keep the Finnish state territory. Even you buy, there is some kind of war. So how you have to handle, how you, when you can cut, and when they sell it, you get kind of permission to do there, for example, to cut the forest, but you have to take care about that land area, because in case you are not cleaning it, not taking care about that, so then you're in big trouble.
But wouldn't it be natural for a person to look after the area they own and they hold, because it affects to their own life if the area they own is is infertile or that, and it also lowers the value of that piece of land when they want to sell it again. So of course it's a natural interest of the person to look after things they own, but I think it's the state's right to tell people what they should be able to do with their property and what they should be able to own, because it interferes with our natural.
I wrote here in the quote that tax is a compulsory slash involuntary payment. It's a compulsory payment. Given the choice, maybe at least I will not pay tax. I don't know about others. I wrote 3 basic aspects of taxation: regressive, proportional, and progressive. And on purpose, I wrote in red, yellow, and green. A regressive system of taxation exists. Look at the word regressive. It's not a good word either. Regress. This taxation system used to exist when there used to be monarchies and the empires. Even it still exists in some countries where we have the monarchies and the emperors and the kingdoms, these kind of things. What happens over there? There is a certain class, creamy layer of people who are relative, friends, and the immediate family member of king. And then we have the commoners. The burden of tax falls more on the common masses. And the people who are very rich, very affluent, they pay almost no taxes. Because people who have more proximity to the king or the ruler or the top authorities, they have some immunity, and immunity from taxes. Don't pay taxes or pay less taxes. But people who are poor, the middle income people, the lower middle income people, the entire taxation system is burdening them, rather, putting them under pressure too much. That system used to exist. It has no room for modern welfare democracies. But if even now, you can cite some example of some non-democracy, autocracy, monarchy. Even now, there are many countries in the world which are not democratic. Over there, you can find some shades of regressive taxation system. Very bad. Rich pay no taxes, poor pay almost all taxes. The second is proportional, which I wrote in yellow. Proportional is that there is a one fixed percentage. Let's say 10%. If your annual income is 100,000 euros, you pay 10,000 euros as a tax. If your income rises to 200,000 a year, 10%, you pay 20,000 euros per year. If your income is very low, let's say 50,000 euros a year, then you pay 5,000. So the fixed flat percentage. At least it's better than regressive. Yeah? Does it make sense? At least it is better than regressive. It means that if you have a lot of money, you pay 10% and get rid of. It's fine, all good. But then, even this taxation system is not acceptable to the welfare state. Why it's not acceptable? Everybody is paying same percentage.
But there are still like people who have so little money that the 10% is actually
too much.
really
Yes,
low.
you're right. Very well said. See, from the micro point of view, I can write down maybe. If your annual income is 20,000 euros and you pay 2,000, somebody who earns 20,000 a year paying 2,000 euros can be a big burden, isn't it? But if you're earning 1 million euros a year, and even if you pay 100,000 euros out of it, which is a big amount, but see how much you're left over. You are still left over with a huge amount of money. So this disparity, the gap between wealthier and the poorer, becomes wider, actually. I can say you this example that if for example, if bread becomes expensive by 50 cents, for a rich man, for a rich person, he or she doesn't even bother about it, yeah? But if a student whose earning is very limited, if somebody unemployed, somebody who's having very, kind of few part-time hours of job, for that person, his or her weekly kitchen budget can be disturbed by 50 cents. If you're buying 3 or 4 breads in a week. Do you get my point? So it means that if you have less money, then the importance which you give to the one unit of money is high. But if you have a lot of money, then the relative importance you place on each unit of money is less because you have more money. And then we have a third way of thinking, which is, I think, followed by almost all the welfare state, fully welfare or partially welfare, but at least in all the democracies, we follow is called progressive taxation. Progressive taxation is that as you move from lower to the higher income slab, the tax rate is higher than before. So let's say the state says, just imagine, up to 20,000 euros, no taxes. So what is the tax rate? 0%. Between 20,000 to 40,000, let's say the state says you pay 20%. From 40 to 50,000, you pay 30%. From 50 and above, you pay 40%. It means what? There is a discriminated tax percentage as you are falling in the higher and higher income slab. That is called progressive taxation. So we have 3 major philosophical, ideological strands of taxation system: regressive, proportional, and progressive. Do you think in Finland we have, okay, let me rephrase, which taxation philosophy we follow in Finland? Yeah, lady over there. Progressive. It's so obvious, right? But now, as the discussion goes on, we will stop and we will discuss, do we have some regressive contents in taxation system, even in Finland? But give me 5 minutes. We go down to second point. It's called direct and indirect tax. Have you heard about direct taxes and indirect? Have you heard about VAT? Okay, now let me, I think once I explain it, then you will relate it to what I'm saying. Direct taxes, okay, imagine you are people living in the country and I'm a tax person, tax man. I ask you that, hey, the lady, this much tax you are supposed to pay based on your income and wealth calculations. And you pay me. I intended tax on you and you pay it to me. There's a very direct relationship. You are not able to pass on the tax to your next door person or your friend or anybody else. You can't shift it to anybody else. The tax was intended upon you. You paid the tax and end of the story. That is called direct tax. But then there are some taxes which have this element of shiftability. Shiftability. The tax was intended on you, but you pass the buck on somebody else's shoulders. For example, The state says that on the raw material you buy, you are a company now, you run a factory, and the state says that, okay, let's take some even better example. Let's say you are Prisma, you own Prisma. You know the store. The state says that the tax on cigarettes is increased. What does the shop do? What does Prisma do? Prisma will increase the price. What happened now? The tax burden is moved to consumer. The state says that there is a shortage of wheat flour in the country. We have to import from other countries. Let's stop people from too much consumption of bread. And the state says, okay, from tomorrow onwards, bread would be expensive by 50 cents. And what did the shop do? They raised the price of bread and recovered it from consumers, customers. Do you see this element of moving, shiftability? If you are able, those taxes which have this characteristic of shiftability, they are called as indirect taxes. But those taxes which have no element of shiftability are called direct taxes. Let's find some examples. Can you give me some examples of direct taxes where you can't shift it? Tax is on you, you pay taxes, that's it. Yeah, income tax, fantastic. The first example is income tax. You earn your salary, it's calculated at the end of the year, tax return you file, you disclose, okay, this is my sources, and they verify, they say, all right, mate, this is the amount you need to pay tax, you know, end of the story. Yes. Sorry? Corporate tax, very good. Like the individuals pay individual tax, right? The companies also pay the corporate tax. You know, you earn, let's say at the end of the year, let's say Finnair earns 40 million euros, the profit. And let's say the tax rate is 40%, okay? Then 40 million times 40%, 16 million they pay in the form of tax. So if you pay as an individual, it's called individual tax, individual income tax. And if the company pays or the institutions pay, it's called corporate income tax or just corporate tax. What else? Luxury tax. Could you elaborate? Luxury tax? Yes, if you consume some luxury. But I'll come back to it. But I want to see more. Want to see the easier examples, much easier examples. Yes. Property tax. Yeah. There is a inheritance when you buy some property, or if you inherit the property from your predecessors, there is a property tax. Or if you sell, the property and you have the money, you know, the gain, you pay tax on it. So that's direct tax. What else? There's a tax even on death. There's a death tax also, by the way. You know, when people die, we pay tax to the state authorities for the burial and stuff. Sorry, did somebody say something? Etu?
No, it was me.
Ah, Satu.
Gift tax. If someone gives you
Yes.
a lot of money,
if somebody
or
wants to give you a gift,
yeah,
you also pay tax on the gift.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. What about the indirect taxes? Indirect taxes, VAT, yeah, or in many countries it's called sales tax. When you sell something, the tax should be paid by the shop, but they recover from the customers. Sales tax or VAT is one. In many countries it's called GST, general sales tax, or value added tax. You know, so VAT is very common phrase. Any other word, any other tax, all indirect category? Mhm.
On carbon emissions to manufacturers.
Yeah, that's true. When you have this carbon tax, that is also the indirect tax, because the tax is imposed on the company, the manufacturing of the automobile, but they add in the price of the, the car and recover from the consumers. Good. Any other example? Mm-hmm. No?
The custom tax.
Custom duties, when you buy something from abroad and you pay, even if you buy something for your personal use, or if you are a company but you buy some technology from Canada, you buy some special inputs from New Zealand, when those things come at the dock, at the harbor, before they are released to you, you pay the custom duty. So that is also indirect cost, indirect tax. Good example. If now listen very carefully before I let you have a short break. I said that in Finland, or in all the welfare state, the taxation system is very progressive. Now I underline, when you see the indirect taxes, do you find some shades of regressiveness? Or do you think that the indirect taxes are progressive as well? Now, what's wrong with they are progressive? I rephrase my question. About direct taxes, I think we are very clear that in Finland or in all the welfare states, if you're very low income, no taxes, you go to higher income tax rates, a certain X%, higher tax increases, not tax increases, tax percentage increases. And as you go on higher and higher income slab categories, your tax rate increases. Now, my point is that, let me give you an example. And then you please tell me that if this example contains some element of regressiveness. The state increases taxes on bread. And now bread is 50 cents more expensive than before. Can you track some element of regressiveness? I can also already see a lady over there. Please say your name and then please speak out loud.
Or raises the price of the bread in this location, so they avoid paying the tax there, making that consumers with less income pay their tax.
Yeah, good point. Tina has said that when, for example, some company, let's say Prisma, if they are shifting the burden on the consumer, then such a big company, which has more resources, is passing the tax to people who are less resourceful, Okay, that's a good argument. Any other argument? Yes.
As for bread, I think that well, for people who has smaller income, those 50 cents are just the biggest proportion of their income for the people who earn small.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is some kind of
regressiveness here. Is anything in chat?
In chat,
Okay.
the fact that the price is increasing
With
by
the same percentage
percent for everyone, no matter their income.
Okay, that's very interesting, Denisa. But hey, wait a sec. Tina said that why can't a company like Prisma, which has more resources, why can't it bear all the burden of this tax on bread? And I deliberately gave the example of bread because bread is consumed by almost everybody. It's a very staple diet in this country. We eat bread almost in all the meals. But even if, Tina, the company is shifting the burden on consumers, And let's say all the consumers are they all have equal income. Let's say everybody who goes to Prisma is earning 60,000 euros a year. Guess what happens? Then the burden falls equally on each consumer, right? But a bread is consumed by a very rich person who drives his BMW new model. And the bread is also, the same bread is also bought by somebody who is working on daily labor, kind of thing. What happens? For a person whose salary is huge, monthly salary is really big, for him or her, paying 50 extra cents goes unnoticed. But for the other person, the poor person, he may pick the bread from the shelf and when sees the new price, put it back and thinks, hey, I have some couple of loaves of bread, even though it's stale, but I would eat it because it's 50 cents is too much for me. You see my point? Proportionality. Yeah. So even if everybody is paying 50 cents extra, but see what, try to understand. You only see that everybody is paying 50 cents extra, but see the mathematics. See the mathematics. This lady is earning 50,000. Let's say she earns 5,000 a month. Divide 50 cents by 5,000. I'm earning, let's say, 2,000 a month. Divide 50 cents by 2,000. Somebody is having couple of hundreds a month, only some Kela money. Divide 50 by 500. So even though the numerator is same, the top value, but the base, the denominator is different. And as the denominator becomes bigger and bigger and bigger for rich people, of course, they have more money. The final figure becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. But if you divide 50 cents by 500 euros, that figure would be more visible. Do you get my point? It means that even if you impose same amount of tax, because the bread is only 50 cents more expensive for everybody, but the relative proportional difference, the burden would be much more. So basically, you are, by increasing the price of bread, you are giving a subsidy to the rich people, isn't it? Divide 50 cents by somebody whose monthly salary is 10,000 and divide 50 cents by divide 50 cents by 500, some student money you get. So what happens? Where is more tax? In case of rich or poor? On the poor people. More tax in the poor people in Finland. That is called regressive taxation. So that's what I'm trying to say, that there is a big debate, there's a big discussion that should a country go more for direct taxes or indirect taxes? Because the indirect taxes are inherently, they can be regressive because they don't distinguish between rich and poor. Of course, if there's a more tax on Mercedes or some expensive brand, of course, then the student money doesn't count because you can't afford it in the first place. Get my point? But still, they are not falling equally on all the people. And if those products are essential, I took the example of bread. I didn't choose for the luxury item because the essential, the necessity is something which is consumed by everybody. So therefore, I took those examples. So the state should be very careful in imposing indirect taxes on the essential products. If they make the luxury homes more expensive, then that's a different debate, but not for the essentials. So we take a 5-minute break. And then we come back and we carry on for a few minutes. Last word on this slide we see is positive taxes and the negative taxes. Of course, the positive taxes, the name itself is self-explanatory, that we pay the positive taxes, 10%, 5%, 20%, whatever percentage, it's a positive. But more intriguing is that, do you see the negative taxation, negative taxes? When tax is minus 5%, do you see it? Can taxes be negative? Yeah, they can. If you look at your entire subsidy system, the word is, can you type this word in chat? Subsidy system. That is based on the negative taxation. So the state is giving, but it doesn't take anything from you in reciprocity. So it's not a transaction. The state is giving you. I can give you dozens of examples when the state is, look at the all unemployment benefits or the student benefits or many other benefits. And sometimes the companies are struggling and there's a risk that if the state doesn't come for the rescue, they would become bankrupt. And if they become bankrupt, it not only brings a bad image to the country's corporate environment, but it also leads to unemployment and so many other side effects. What was the word I used before? Negative externalities. So the state in such situation, they come for the rescue of this struggling company, and they, instead of taking taxes from that company, the state is giving them more benefits so that the company can be revamped and it can come back to its, the previous good situation. So in that cases, taxes can be negative also. Okay, so if you want to look at the negative taxes, I think the best example is the entire subsidy system, where the state is paying you in turn, not you. So the negative taxes are possible. One very important thing which I want to draw your attention to is the first sentence, the first two sentences written in this slide. Please read them out and try to get, do you get some ideas from it? I can read it out for you if you want. The example, I come back to again those the track workers and the train example. You, I'm addressing you. You not only work for the larger good, save 5 people at the expense of 1 person, but also choose who to save. Perhaps you were prepared to push the bulky man from the bridge to the track, on the train track, because you might think that the people who are working are actually net contributors to the society and economy. But the guy who was drunk, big man, and you were thinking to push him so that he could fall and the train could be stopped, he could be a burden on the society. He's taking money from the state, but he's not contributing anything. But on the other hand, those 5 young people and 1 young person, of course, you chose for 1 to run him over, but at least you were able to save more people who are net contributors to the society. So the idea I'm trying to put forward is that you not only make a decision to run the train, maneuver the train on this track or that track, but you also choose who to save and who not to save. And the same thing you can apply in your economic rationale. The state can decide which people to be benefited, let's say negative taxation, or which people should be taxed more So more, very high tax, less tax, a bit low tax, no tax. And no tax, on the top of that no tax, you even go for negative tax. Students, they don't pay tax, no tax, but they also get the benefit from the state. So that makes taxation negative. So you don't do it opposite. You don't give negative tax to the very multi-billion euro companies, and you don't put taxes on the poor students. Do you get my point? So you also decide who to give the carrot and who to give a stick. So the carrot and stick policy you apply. So there is a discrimination. There is a taxation, a discrimination. The biggest example comes to my mind is the price discrimination. Price discrimination. Have you heard about this word, price discrimination? What is discrimination? When you do on purpose something unequal, you treat two people differently. It's a discrimination, right? It can be good, it can be bad. Usually a discrimination word is taken in the negative connotation, but it can be good also. Price discrimination. You are charging different prices from different customers. In many countries, in many societies, you pay the price of certain services based on your income level. Rich pay high price, the poor pay less price. If your income is below a certain level, in many countries, you don't pay or pay very minimal amount on the education and the medical facilities. But if you are a rich person, you get more money, you get more salary, you get more wealth, then for the same facilities, for the same benefits, public utilities, you end up paying more money, more fee. Price discrimination. Do you have an example in mind about the price discrimination? When the service provider is charging different prices from different clients based on their income and other background. Any example? Can I ask the gentleman at the back? I'll come to you.
People, for example, museums are cheaper than for the foreign.
Okay. All right. So if, for example, I visit St. Petersburg next year, and I have to pay more fee to visit a museum, but if you're a native person, you pay less fee or maybe no fee. Yeah. Okay, that's an example of price discrimination. Well, they want to support their tourist industry. Why not? Yeah, the lady over here.
For B2B commerce, you have a good client.
Mm-hmm.
So where is the price?
Very good example. If there's a B2B, business to business relationship, and you have a customer which is very loyal to you, you have a history of association. You don't want to let them give you up. So in order to retain their fidelity, their link with you, their association with you, you want to honor them, you want to give them a good gesture by charging less price. But if somebody calls you, hey, can you also supply me the same products? And this customer is a new customer, never been in touch with. All right, then perhaps you will charge slightly more price. Normal price. Let's put it this way, yeah. And for your regular customers, you may be charging less price. Yeah, very good example that in the B2B relationships, then you may go for price discrimination. Even in B2C kind of thing, this is possible. Yeah. I want to give you an example of, just a sec. Can you guys see the my online friends, the blank whiteboard?
Yes,
Yeah, we do.
Okay, good. Now, I want to give you an example of price discrimination. Let me draw something for you. My drawing is very bad. So please bear with me, yeah? Okay, what is this? Okay, let's call it S here. Have you seen this picture before? That we have a demand curve and supply curve, and then they cut each other, and we develop a point of equilibrium where demand and supply is equal. But I'm not washing off my hands. In the next couple of weeks, I will come to this picture extensively. We would revisit everything. But for the time being, I want to give you this example, assuming that all of you in the high school would have done some bit of economics. And this is the kind of, the basic picture in economics, that demand and supply. Let's say in this example, we are talking about the demand and supply of food stuff, the food items. Let's say they are rice, wheat, whatever, but they are the food items, okay? There's a demand. Can you see the relationship that if the price is more, demand is less, and as the price goes down, demand increases, yeah? And on the supply curve, you can see that if the price is less, you supply less, but if the price goes up, it's an incentive, you supply more because it increases your profits. And this is the point of equilibrium. The equilibrium is where demand and supply is equal. And the price is fixed OP. Let's call it OP, O and P. This is the price which is fixed. The point I want to highlight here is that OP will not be the only price which would be taken from all the people in the society, because everybody buys food. Yeah, let me come back to it. State realizes that there are many people who can find this price very high. And food is something which you have to eat. If you don't eat it, people would die. It's very essential thing. So this OP price is okay for the middle income people. This OP price, they don't even bother. Who doesn't bother? The rich people don't even care. But the state knows that this OP price can be beyond the reach of some poor people. Yeah, what state does? State says, we don't care about the price, this demand and supply. We fix a price that anybody, I call it P star. Anybody whose income is 20,000 euros a year or below will have some special card. Yeah. Go to certain shops, show your card, and for the food, for the wheat or the rice, whatever, even if the other normal consumers in the same store are paying OP price, you guys go to the till point, take your stuff, okay? Show you, when you pay, show your card, that the salesperson would charge OP star price from you, not OP. Can you see that you are given a subsidy of P star length? From P to P star length, you are given a subsidy. This is a price discrimination. And who is the beneficiary of this price discrimination? Sorry? Who's the beneficiary? The poor people. The poor people are the beneficiary of this price discrimination. Okay? So, but then there's one more problem. There's one more problem. The problem is that If you look at the nature of the food items, the agricultural products, there's a difference in the supply chain or the manufacturing process of the factory item and the food items. Can you see the difference between them? If you are a company, if you're a factory making furniture, rain or sunshine, snow or no snow, the workers come to the factory in indoor, the wood is processed in the machine and you make the final chair. Does it happen in the same way in the farmland? Is it the way? Can you grow rice or wheat anytime? It's a seasonal thing. There is a certain season of certain crops. You can't grow them day and night or 24/7 or 365 days a year. Can you? No. What happens? When the crop is ready, there's a huge amount of supply. You get my point? For example, in many countries, because I come from India, I know that in the month of April, the fields are full of wheat crop. And during September, October, the fields are full of rice crop. What does it mean? It means those are the months when the when the markets would be flooded by food, but not during other months. Then you store it and then the process goes on, yeah? If you supply too much of wheat in the month of April and rice in the month of September, what is the danger? What is the danger? The price will? Marvelous. What's your name? Ivan. Ivan said that the price would decrease. If you leave the farmers, it's a marvelous explanation. If you leave the farmers at the mercy of market system, during the month of April, the wheat price will go down. The farmer loses. The middlemen, those traders, they buy it cheap and store it in their warehouses and then charge more in the next months when there's no wheat coming to the market. And during the month of September, the price of rice will go down. And again, those traders, what they do? They buy it cheaper, keep in their warehouse and sell expensive next month. That's unjust, unfair. Then what the state does in many countries? State says, don't you worry about this picture, demand and supply, don't care about it. And don't even go to these private people who buy your crops. Don't go there. We have our own agencies. And we fix the price above this so-called market price. And let's call it P, just with some other sign, star. What should I say? Huh? Sorry? Circle? Okay, P circle. We fix the price. We are a welfare state. We want to support our farmers. Come on, 75% of the population is comprising of the farmers. Good rationale, bad rationale, but the state says that, hey, we would be charging OP0 price from you, OPO price, yeah? This price. Anytime any farmer want to sell, come. Don't go to any private traders, come to us, we would buy it from you. Whatever quantity you sell, we are here to buy from you. Do you see the price discrimination? Same food item. Certain set of consumers are paying less than the market price. Market price is this, consumers are paying this much. Same food items, some people are receiving higher price than the market price. These are the economic realities. This is where politics come in economics, because you don't want to We don't want certain set of consumers to suffer because they can't afford it. And at the same time, you don't want to hurt the suppliers also. When the state says that take your card, go to the shop, show your card, when you pay, take a swipe, you will be automatically, the price would come down. The state want to support its consumers. And when the state says, hey, I know, my dear farmers, if you go in the month of April and September, you will be having glut of crops. The those traders would charge more price from you. I know. Sorry, they would give you less price. Come to me. I would buy. Who says it? State says it. Here, you are giving a sort of assurance to the supplier of crops. And here, you are giving an assurance to the consumers, buyers. So the state can fine tune with the buyers and sellers so that if the market price is hurting the both, the state can charge less price from the consumers and the state can give more price to the suppliers. And this price, the lower price in many countries, it's called, I would write it down, can you, yeah? It's called minimum support price. Sorry, maximum retail price. I call it OP star. So OP star. And then this price OPO is called minimum support price. It's a bit ironic that the maximum is below and the minimum is top, because minimum, you want to give the minimum assurance. Basically, by OPO price, you are telling the farmers that, hey, the minimum I give you is this much. Maximum can be more even. But the price will not fall below OP0. And here, you're telling the consumers that, hey, the price can be even below OP star, but it will not be more than star. So this is a price discrimination. And who's doing it? Most likely state and its agencies are doing it. Because you know that your demographic, your population is not even. And these kind of things happen in those countries or those societies where the gap between rich and poor is so wide that if you leave people at the mercy of the market system, it would widen the gap between income and wealth even more. So these are two attempts to narrow down the gaps between rich and poor through the price system. Yeah? Yes.
I know for the security of PO, now I know they fix it like 4 years for one season. No?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know
for one season, yeah, for one crop, yeah.
Because sometimes there's a season that is really bad, and then your feed price can be higher than your PO price because you can't supply.
Yeah.
And that's why, well, it's really seasonal.
It's seasonal, yes. There have been some situations in Finland when the local supply of potatoes was so much that the market price went down and the farmers were very angry with that. The farmers were even complaining that the government bought potatoes expensive from Sweden rather than buying from them. So these kind of, this is where a lot of political and economic overlap occurs. So that's where you not only think like an economist, but also sometimes like a politician. Yeah. So basically every year before the season, normally the state meets the representatives of the farmers and they make an estimation or rather guesstimation that how much crop will come this year and how much is the demand. So what is the cost in producing the crop? You pay so much. And then they make that, hey, this is the minimum price which we assure. If it is more, it's fine. If you take more than this, please go for it. But we give you an assurance that the minimum price would be OP0. They don't do it. Yeah. That's again thing that how well you implement the policies. And yeah. Okay. So this is something about the price discrimination. And once again, why we are doing it? Because we want to study that how the state is using those means, which can be good or bad, good for certain people, bad for certain people, but at the end of the day, the result is good. So these are those examples. Well, now we went beyond the example of train track workers to the taxation and the pricing system of the country. So basically, we are discussing that how the state sometimes is making price discrimination to make an idea that if the overall welfare of people is more. Because if the state doesn't give this price and this price, in the absence of this price, the farmers would suffer. The farmers in a country are usually not very rich. In many developing countries, they're very poor people. And if the state doesn't give this thing, then many poor consumers will suffer. So to bring the element of welfare to support, the state is deviating from the textbook demand curve and supply curve relationship. And this is called price discrimination. And what is the rationale? The rationale is that at OP0 price, many farmers would be happier than before, because now they are assured. They would focus more on, otherwise, you know what? Even the farmers can blackmail the state. If the state doesn't give them OP0 price assurance, then what will they do? They on purpose will grow less crop next year. And what will happen then? The price of the essential goods will go up. That would be catastrophic. So therefore, the state wants that these kind of negativities in the social system shouldn't develop. So they rather already give them assurance that, hey, folks, don't worry, grow as much as you want. We are ready to buy it. Yeah. On the other hand, here the state is giving the assurance to the poor people that don't worry, folks. Of course, I can't provide you BMW to you, but of course I can provide you food at the affordable price. Yeah. The rationale is that by helping the poor masses and by helping the farmers, the total good, the total welfare generated would be more than the cost which you go through in the process. And the net result is positive. And hence the overall consequence is happy ending. And that's what Jermy Bentham was saying, that we believe in consequentialism. If the final outcome is good, then don't care about what type of pains or suffering you went through in the process. Okay. So next time when we meet, we will discuss the other side of the picture, when we will be blatantly criticizing this consequentialism. Okay. Thank you so much for being patient listener and for your wonderful participation in the discussion, and keep doing it always. And do we have anything in chat?